I don't know.
What was the question again?
How many months? How many? For the past several weeks, we've been talking about the Earth's orbit around the Sun and the Moon's orbit around the Earth, and how all of that adds up to the calendar that we in most of the world use today. Now let's compare that to Mars's calendar and how it goes around the Sun, and even how its two moons, Phobos and Deimos, orbit Mars. And from that, we'll talk about why Mars has a calendar that it does. So as usual, I went out into Savannah, Georgia, and I asked some people some questions. The first of which is, how many days are in one Martian year?
How long is a year on Mars?
Oh, goodness. I have no idea.
We need our daughter here. No.
It's shorter, right?
Mars is outside of Earth.
Oh, it's outside of. It's longer than.
More, so
542.
So we're 365 days. I think it's less than 400.
I don't know, the equivalent of 3 Earth years.
Or is it the other way?
No, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be at least double. So I'm going to say 700.
677 days.
really close. 686 Earth days.
That's
or
pretty close.
669 Martian
That's
days.
pretty good.
If you're counting by Earth days, Mars has 686.98 days in its year. But if you're counting by Martian days, it actually goes down to 668.599 days. So Mars takes just about 45 minutes longer to orbit on its axis one time as compared to Earth. One Martian year actually adds up to about 1.88 Earth years. So if you started counting Mars' year on January 1st here on Earth, it would be November 17th of the following year before Mars completed one orbit. In fact, Mars's orbit is so long that you would celebrate 2 birthdays and almost reach a 3rd birthday before Mars completes a single orbit. Now remember how here on Earth, our seasons are roughly the same length, but if you saw the previous video in which I talked about why the sun rises and sets at a different time every day, you would know that in fact between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, there's about a week difference in the lengths of the 2 summers. On Mars, this is absolutely not the case. Mars's orbit is more elliptical than Earth's, so its summers and winters are a lot longer and a lot shorter than you would find on Earth. But on Mars, the northern hemisphere has a combined spring and summer of 372 days, whereas the southern hemisphere has a combined spring and summer of only 296 days. That makes the difference in the lengths between the 2 summers just about 80 days. Moving on to the second question, I asked people how many months they thought were on Mars.
And I don't even know how months are calculated here, so.
How many moons?
It has 2 moons.
It has 2. Well, then that really gets weird.
Right.
I would say just a few.
What would you say? I'd say like 17.
I was going to say 17.
You were?
Yeah,
Okay,
17.
17. We're going with 17.
20?
I'll go with his answer. I'm gonna say 24 months. I'm really guessing here.
I guess it would be the orbit of Mars around the sun would take 23 months.
Guess one, Katie. Nope.
It's actually 0.
What? There's no moons. That's a trick
2
question.
Mars doesn't have months.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, there you
that
go.
was a
It's
trick
question.
In order to fully understand why Mars doesn't have months, we have to understand why Earth has months. In my previous video, we talked about how we measure 2 types of orbits for the moon. The first is the sidereal orbit, which is when the moon follows a 360-degree orbit around the Earth. The second is a synodic orbit, in which the moon goes around the Earth but is counted from full moon to full moon. The synodic orbit is a bit longer than the sidereal orbit by just about 2.2 days. And it's this synodic orbit from full moon to full moon that we get our months. So let's take a look at Mars and focus on this same definition. Mars has 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. Phobos orbits Mars at about 3,700 miles above its surface, whereas Deimos orbits Mars at just about 12,400 miles above its surface. Due to Phobos' proximity, it only takes about 7 hours and 39 minutes for it to orbit Mars once, whereas Deimos takes just over 1 Martian day at around 30 hours. It takes Phobos, which is closer, it's about 3,000 miles off Mars, 7.5 hours to go around Mars.
Oh, wow.
It takes Deimos, which is about 13,000 miles, 30 hours to go around Mars.
Wow. Okay.
There's no regular cycle for us to make a clock out of the moons, just like we do with Earth's moon. So instead of there being months, we actually only count the number of days since you yourself landed on Mars. There are no calendar dates on Mars. There's no April 17th. There's no November 3rd. Martian days are measured by sols, which is just like Earth's day, except measured as a Martian day. And it's usually scaled down to just 24 hours like we do here on Earth. But because there's no divided calendar yet, we only count by Sol 1, Sol 2, Sol 3, Sol 400, Sol 500, however many sols a rover or a person is on Mars. So until people start developing a society on Mars, we might not see a calendar arise for several decades. Maybe months will just be divided incrementally, just without a pattern of the moon. Maybe there will be some calculation of the factors between Phobos and Deimos and match them up, and every so often that'll just end a month. But people are working on it, especially since in the next 10 to 20 years, people will be living on Mars. So that's how Earth and Mars's calendars stack up to each other. Earth has 365 Earth days and is based on a 12-month calendar from the synodic orbit of the moon. Mars has 668.599 Martian days and doesn't have months because there's no regular cycle of moons.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very
Thanks, man.
So you have, oh, okay.
So
I'm learning.
there?
That's really cool, but also scary.
That's everything.
Yay.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, I can see how that would
That's
be. Yeah.
pretty cool.
So if it's